I'm a little jealous of the Europeans. I never thought I would say that, but here I am. Because they have a plethora of track specials available for your purchase. The BAC Mono, the Aerial Atom, and the granddaddy of them all, kind of, unless you discount the Lotus 7, the modern granddaddy of them all, the Radicals. Phil Abbott had a desire to make a lightweight track car with superbike power, specifically a Kawasaki 1.1-liter inline-4, because it's both incredibly light while still producing 130 horsepower. And in a car that is the size of their newly created Radical 1100 Club Sport, without any aerodynamics, that was plenty. Of course, track cars work best with aerodynamics, so they installed an aero kit for the upgraded Pro Sport models in the future, and it also got a new engine option, the 1.3-liter inline-4 from the Suzuki Hayabusa? I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but it looks right from the spelling. So anyway, it makes 175 horsepower and marked a significant improvement from the base model Club Sports. Now, these 1100s and 1300s were designed for Sports 2000 racing. The names don't match, but that's what they were designed for. But Radical found out that so many were ordered that they founded their own one-make racing series with the British Racing and Sports Car Club in 1999. Now, this series started out with the Club and Pro Sports, but if you're going to have a one-make racing series, you need a car for it, a design car, the SR1. Now, the SR1 Cup works as both a racing series and a training course for new drivers. Therefore, it's the cheap entry-level Radical, so it only costs around £45,000 brand new, which is not bad for a full race car, equipped with fully adjustable suspension, dashboard-mounted brake bias adjuster, fire extinguishing system, engine cutoff system, self-sealing fuel cell, 6-speed sequential gearbox, racing slicks, and wet weather tires. Even F1 doesn't have a set of those. The SR1 also weighs just 490 kilograms and makes nearly 200 horsepower. So while sure, it's the base model, it's a serious track car, and it's also just the beginning of Radical's potential. Because in 2001, the SR3 launched, and it would define the entire brand. It was essentially a badder SR1, so it had the same basic racing equipment because the underlying philosophy is the same. But now, it has a hand-built racing engine making 225 horsepower and aerodynamics inspired by LMP cars, with large diffusers and a new biplane rear wing that gives the car 2.3 G of cornering force. The SR3 is Radical's best-selling model, with half of all of their total sales being the SR3. It's also the primary car for Radical's current one-make racing series around the world. Now, with that success, Radical had the funds and the confidence to enter factory motorsport themselves. Up to this point, they were running spec series for privateers, but the SR9 was a full-blown LMP2 car featuring a 530 horsepower Judd V8, which was meant for FIA endurance racing. Unfortunately, since it's a small British sports car builder, reliability got the best of them, and they could only muster a best ever finish of 5th in class at the 2006 24 Hours of Le Mans. So very quickly they reverted back to what they know. Very confusing names. We had the SR1, then the SR3, then the SR9, and now we have the SR8. Launched in 2005, and, well, a little caveat about the 3 and the 8, as I should get into before I make my next point. Technically, they're road legal, but only in Britain and Europe. It turns out their road laws are way more lax than our California regulations. So, you could technically get these absolute maniacs on the road, which is awesome. It's also a little confusing when it comes to lap records, because it's not a road car worldwide, So if it's not a worldwide road car, can it be considered for the production car record at the Nürburgring? Well, that entered the public discourse in 2005 when the SR8 lapped the Nürburgring in under 7 minutes, a first for a road car. So it did a 6:55, and that was very, very good. And it caused a lot of debate because Americans don't really consider it a production car. So they don't count the record, which meant the record at the time was, I think, the GTR? The R33, maybe? Or was it the Gumpert Apollo? Either way, we didn't really consider it. And we also didn't consider their 2009 SR8 LM variant when it shattered their own record by 7 seconds. Now, the LM is, quite frankly, a masterpiece. I mean, you don't do a sub-650 lap of the Nürburgring in a Prius. This thing had a PowerTech V8, making 455 horsepower, up from 380 for the normal SR8. And it only weighed 1,400 pounds, so over 450 horsepower, under 1,500 pounds. I mean, it was the closest to an LMP car one could buy. And Radical continued to improve upon it. The SR8 SRX is the latest evolution that mixes styling cues from their hardtop models and the traditional LMP aerodynamic philosophy. It is the heaviest SR8 to date at 1,900 pounds, and it's not very cheap. The normal SR1 was pretty affordable, 45 grand. This is 176, so it doesn't seem like that great of a deal until you realize it does 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, and technically held the Nürburgring lap record for almost a decade. But now we have a new addition to the SR family in the form of the 2020 SR10. They have sadly ditched the V8s in favor of the Ford EcoBoost V6, which makes 425 horsepower and 360 torque, so it is actually less powerful than the SR8 SRX. That does not roll off the tongue very well. But in compensation, it has newer suspension components designed to increase longevity and make it easier to adjust them. It also has bigger brakes and new cooling ducts added to cool those brakes down. And now, again, for ease of access, most systems can be monitored via the steering wheel mounted display, just like an actual race car. Because remember, the whole point of the SR family is that sure, through some weird loopholes in the European road regulations, you can get them road legal, but they are designed first and foremost for the track. They are designed to make anybody able to race. You start in the SR3s, and you work your way up through the ranks. Saying that, we're going to completely ditch everything that I've just said for the last few minutes, and move on to Radical's biggest shakeup since the club sport in 1997, the RXC family. It's their new international racing platform that's designed to work on a variety of racing series, which means there's a lot of variations. The RXC GT, RXC Spider, Turbo 500, Turbo 500R, Turbo 600R, and GT3. Now these ran up until 2017 with 2.7-liter and 3-liter V8s that made up to 480 horsepower. But then they switched to the 3.5-liter Ford EcoBoost used in the SR10. Now that is important, because this is the heaviest Radical ever. 2,400 pounds due to the turbocharging and enclosed cockpit body style. Which, side note, I can't believe I'm saying that, but 2,400 pounds is the heaviest Radical ever. Usually that's the lightest car ever for a manufacturer, but I guess that's just Radical's thing, isn't it? And yeah, it's lethargic by comparison to the SR family, but again, like the SR10, has some goodies. Some really nice goodies. Carbon fiber bodywork, 3-way adjustable dampers, FIA certified 100-liter fuel cell, traction control, pit lane speed limiter, a heated windshield, and air conditioning. I mean, it's practically a Maybach in there. Now, having all of those amenities, and the crash features that come from the new chassis, means that the RXC GT is the first Radical to ever pass California regulations, which means we actually get them in the US. You can import the Radical from Europe and certify it here for road use. I don't think you would want to, apart from the fact that you would definitely win every car show you ever attended, and get looked at by every single cop ever driving down the road thinking you're driving a race car. But I will admit, the RXC GT is a damn good introduction to America's highways. The EcoBoost V6 starts out at 400 horsepower, but for a bit of extra change, you can get to 600 Rs, full 650 horsepower. That gives the RXC GT a 0 to 60 time of just 2.7 seconds and a top speed of 180 miles an hour, which makes it, in this respect, the fastest Radical ever. Although, to be honest, I do think that the heavier weight and lack of full slicks would prevent any outright records from being set compared to the SR8's SRX or the SR10. But you know what? At 200 grand, it'll still blitz everything that's got 6 zeros in its price tag. So, those are all the current Radical models that are on sale. But what about their future? Well, no surprises, and they're basing it off the SR family, although it does not have the SR name. In 2020, they announced their new car, the Rapture, named, of course, after that Blondie song, and it serves as a return to form after the RXC, with a 2.3-liter 4-cylinder turbo and inspired by the original SR3 design. It's not as fast as the SR10 right now, but it starts at 70 grand less and is the most road-drivable SR model yet. Which is a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie, because Radicals are always racetrack first. Sometimes, maybe, if you use a loophole in the rules, you can drive it on the road. That is their style, so having the most road-drivable one yet kinda freaks me out. But they did back it up with some serious claims. 380 horsepower, less than 1,000 kilograms, 0 to 100 miles an hour in 8.4 seconds, and again, for being slower than the SR10, it still laps Silverstone short at the same pace as a Formula 4 car. So, maybe I'll have to put those going soft comments on hold.